We believe that monetary policy is well positioned to serve the American people.
This is different. This is not QE, this is totally different.
The dollar is dominant now. The renminbi is getting more dominant.
So we begin with a question that is top of mind for many investors. Is this the beginning, perhaps, of something bigger, deeper, longer?
Does gold have room to run in 2020?
We believe it does. We think
And you have devaluations of currency globally. Gold has been a store of value for thousands of years.
Astronomer Carl Sagan once said, "You have to know the past to understand the present." That's why I'm in rural Virginia. I'm here to visit one of the U.S. State Department's most respected diplomats of the last 50 years, Walter Coles Sr.
I had a total of over 5 years of civilian and military service in Vietnam and was evacuated out in 1975. I was the main key person, the architect for the U.S. government that began working with countries of the former Soviet Union to take all of the government-owned assets of the large industries and putting them in private hands or in the private sector.
What you are about to see and hear are insights about our world only someone with Cole's experience could convey. His comments and connections steered me across North America, where I met with the team working to restart the planet's highest grade gold mine. Their project has become one of the hottest opportunities in the venture market. What they told me and what I saw for myself has convinced me that for savvy investors, what lies deep within these mountains could be amazingly profitable as we enter into what many believe is set to be a global bull market for gold. Coles lives on this old tobacco plantation just outside the small Virginia town of Chatham. His family has owned and worked it since 1785.
Here are some interesting documents that relate to the old plantation, as it were.
Over the centuries, the Coles family has closely associated with everyone from James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, who lived nearby, to the Rough Rider himself.
They never referred to Teddy Roosevelt as Mr. President. They always referred to him as Colonel.
But it's Coles' experience working to repair economies around the world that has me here.
You spent most of your career working in some pretty chaotic places. What lessons for us here in the West have you taken away from everything that you saw?
The big lesson for me has been the lesson of capitalism and private ownership of property and the ability to use that ownership to create wealth. If you just let a person create his own wealth, they'll do it.
Creating wealth is one thing. Keeping it is something else entirely. Global debt levels are rising, and currencies are being devalued to keep pace. In such an environment, how can you protect your wealth, especially when a dollar earned today may be worth less tomorrow? It's a question I put to Coles.
I've experienced that all around the world, where people have accumulated gold as a way to guarantee wealth as an asset. And I don't think that's going to change. Will it be increasingly more important? Gold? The answer is yes.
At this point, Coles passed along some fascinating intel. He told me his son is leading an effort to restart one of the richest gold mines in the world, and that he'd introduce me. What I would find would reshape my perception of what's possible for investors. This is the Eskay Creek project, located in the storied Golden Triangle area of British Columbia, Canada. For decades, it was the world's highest grade gold mine before Barrick Gold shut it down in 2008 due to what was at the time low gold prices. In December 2017, the team at Skeena Resources secured an option to acquire the entire property from Barrick, and they've been working on it ever since.
Skeena has the best gold-silver project held by a junior mining company on the planet.
This is Cole's son, Walter Coles Jr. A former investment banker, he sees the same headwinds on the horizon that his father does.
You can't grow your debt levels faster than your income is growing. At some point, it just mathematically doesn't work anymore. You don't have enough income to support your debts.
Yeah.
And then the question is, what do governments do? What do politicians do? Right? Because lenders are a small percentage of the population. The debtors are a large percentage of the population. If you're a politician,
Well, you're going to go the route that's going to
keep you in office.
In other words, Coles believes money printing could be a real possibility. And the only way to protect yourself?
To me, it's a great time to be trying to find gold deposits and build gold mines.
And the gold mine he's trying to build is already one of the largest early-stage potential open-pit gold discoveries in the world today.
Eskay Creek was the highest grade gold producer in the world when it was in production in the 90s and early 2000s, but it shut down in a time when the price of gold was very low and also the project was extremely remote.
Kelly Earle is a geologist and vice president at Skeena.
Since then, we've had billions of dollars worth of infrastructure investment in the area. There's hydroelectric facilities that are drivable within 7 kilometers now.
This is one of those new hydro facilities. So instead of hauling diesel by helicopter to fuel the mine the way it was done in the past, today there's plenty of cheap, clean electricity ready for action.
So Skeena acquired it, trying to figure out what was left behind that wasn't economic when it was operated in the 90s and 2000s that would be now. And we have discovered that there's 4 million ounces of gold left behind, grading 4.5 grams per ton gold equivalent, which would make it one of the highest grade open pit mines in the world when and if it goes back into production.
Back in November, Skeena announced a stunningly good PEA. A PEA is a preliminary economic assessment. They're done by an outside third party to determine if the mine will make money once it's built.
So Eskay Creek's going to cost just over $230 million US to build, which is amazing because it's producing 306,000 ounces a year. But the really exciting part is that the payback is only 1.2 years. So that means 1.2 years after producing, the project will be debt-free. Everyone will be paid back, and then it's just free cash flow from there.
It's an awesome investment. You invest $1, you earn your dollar back in the first year, and then every year after that, for the next 8 years, you get 50 cents. That's an awesome investment.
It's literally a bank.
Look, an investment is something that gives you a return. Like this definitively gives you a return.
The landscapes here are literally out of this world. But Skeena and Barrick weren't the first to find this place.
The Tahltan people have been in modern-day northwest British Columbia for at least 8,000 to 10,000 years.
Chad Day is president of the Tahltan Central Government.
We are 11% of British Columbia. We have a land mass about the size of Portugal. We have 4,000 to 5,000 people.
Elected to lead the Tahltan straight out of law school, Day heads up one of the most progressive First Nations governments in the world.
I was originally elected 5 years ago, and I had met Skeena a few months after that. We developed a really good relationship. I really appreciated that Walter had a pretty young team that was basically cutting edge. They recognized that having a strong partnership with First Nations was the way to the future. And since that time, we've been able to do all kinds of precedent-setting things as partners, and eventually that led to the BCRMA.
The BCRMA is the British Columbia Regional Mining Alliance. It's a partnership between First Nations, mining companies, and BC's provincial government.
It's the first of its kind. The idea is to promote mining investment in the Golden Triangle and also to give knowledge to the First Nations communities in that area about mining. The Premier, Horgan, gave $1 million towards this initiative earlier this year.
I'm happy to say that today I have a great working relationship with Skeena, with Walter, with his crew, and we just look forward to continuing to build on that, and we'll see if Eskay and some of their other exploration projects can eventually turn into mines again.
With solid First Nations and government support, Skeena is in an enviable position moving forward. But there's still the question of Barrick and what's next in the process to put the mine back into production.
In 2020, we intend to exercise the option on Eskay Creek and buy the asset from Barrick. So that's probably our number one goal. Number two will be to continue doing the infill drill program that we have had underway for the last 6 months.
Look, there are a lot of junior companies out there that investors have to look at, and they've heard lots of great stories of grandeur and all the rest.
Yes.
You guys are at the point where it sounds like you're on the cusp of something enormous. What guarantees can you give, as a geologist, having looked at this whole project, that what you have here, an investor should pay serious attention?
You know, they always say the best place to find a mine is in the head grade of an old mine, which is very true. Eskay is a past producer, and we are mining what they did not mine historically. It's really just mining what the remnants that are left behind, plus the exploration potential on top of that. So investors should put money into Skeena because we are so undervalued right now. We have this spectacular asset at 4 million ounces at 4.5 grams with a PEA with a $638 million NPV, 51% IRR, 1.2-year payback. It's a spectacular asset that should be worth a few $100 million at least, if not more. And we also see a clear pathway to adding at least another 1 million ounces.
This is a one-of-a-kind asset. There are no other open pitable projects that are going to produce 300,000 to 400,000 ounces a year in the world held by a junior company. That is not reflected in our stock price today. But my hope is that over the next year, 2 years, it will definitively be reflected in our stock price at a much higher level.
As the global issues Walter, his father, and I discussed become more and more pressing, the gold price has only one way to go. Skeena's future looks bright.
If you just let a person create his own wealth, they'll do it.